it's really like that kind of advice that is dependent on the type, which is why we have the types, right? Because you have to ask the question, well, what does it mean to be content for you? What does it mean to be happy? And that's really what you're aiming for when you try to find personality type, is what is the thing that you can strive for that's probably going to be fulfilling to you, and how can you naturally communicate with others in a way that is going to be fulfilling for you? Because there's lots of people in the world who are out there doing things that aren't naturally fulfilling to them because they think that's what they should be doing, right? It's like when you take like an INTP who's been working at McDonald's his whole life, and then you suddenly put him in a field where he can use his thinking more often. He's like, wow, like I didn't even know I could do all of this. And you can kind of help point people in the right direction towards what might be fulfilling to them, and then they can go from there. The biggest thing with discipline is one, it kind of exists outside of type, and that discipline is going to help you manage what you learn through type. The biggest thing for discipline is usually managing your bottom function. When it comes to growth, I often see people try to take this jump or this leap into like trying to master their last function, the thing that is like their shadow. And I very much preach on my channel that you shouldn't do this. Like, you shouldn't try to become who you're not. And instead, you should try to manage what you're not. You should try to make sure that you're at least maintaining the things that you aren't good at. Maybe you outsource it to somebody who can help you with these things. And that's the area that requires the discipline. Is no, you can't just master it and go, I've mastered it, great, I'm done, now I never have to do it again. You have to manage it your entire life. It never stops. So you have to always be aware of these things that you're ignorant to, that you're not paying attention to. So you have to kind of work on the discipline outside of that, and then apply that discipline to your own growth as a person. With personality type, we're looking at how people like prefer to take in information, but outside of your type are personality traits, which you as an individual still have to develop. You know, the type is not the end-all solution for personality in and of itself, but it is going to help you, once you've started working on yourself, find out what is going to be natural, good, easy, or fulfilling for you.
Or many individuals who have encountered struggles in their life, you know, who are a bit hung up on things, and ultimately a lot of that energy is directed, or anger and frustration is directed internally, and they end up beating themselves up for things that they think is wrong with them, for example, and mistakes that they have made. And I think cognitive type can help one learn to forgive oneself in that respect, because it's not just a matter of being a good person or a bad person. It's not just a matter of being lazy, you know, or industrious. You know, it's not just a matter of like being on the right or the wrong. It's much more complicated than that. And actually having a kind of like an objective framework of how your brain is mapped, and just like the fact that cognition isn't just this like on-off switch, and just doing something effectively isn't just a matter of whether or not you want to do it, or whether or not you have the willpower to do it. It's a lot more complicated than that. So I think first of all, having a kind of framework and a kind of a map of a person's cognition can allow them that sense of objectivity about the self. That can take that kind of that anger and frustration and maybe direct it in more positive directions instead, for example. And I think that's a very, very good quality. I mean, the flip side of that is, of course, when you get into situations where a person just wants to be excused for anything that they're doing wrong, and they didn't feel like being, you know, they didn't really feel frustrated with themselves in the beginning. They just kind of wanted an excuse. And then you also have the kind of the path of least resistance kind of approach, which is if a person knows a type, they generally know more or less, and they can get consultation on it as well, where their mind is naturally suited to in a kind of a natural, harmonious kind of way. You know, like I'm an INFJ doing psychology. A lot of the stuff might come more naturally to my NITI on a kind of the grand theoretical conceptual level than maybe it would another type. And so that means I can experience the joy that a lot of us crave, of something to the effect of working while not working, or like working intuitively, I suppose. And when it's like a state of flow or a state of zen, you don't feel like you're pushing up against something all the time. You realize that kind of a lot of the cogitations you're naturally drawn towards are naturally producing a beneficial effect without you needing to intentionally produce that effect. It's just coming about naturally as a result of you being you. And obviously that's a beautiful experience. So that's definitely a benefit of that. And again, the flip side of that is people may not challenge themselves. They might just go into whatever type they're suited to. And that means when an obstacle comes across later in life, then they might not be able to adapt to it as well as they might have done if they'd stayed in the path that was a little bit more difficult. So again, there's going to be a flip side to everything. And I think it's always important to bear in mind that duality. And finally, I'd add that, and this is my favorite part, just getting the cognitive map also gives you a sense of your doorways and your pathways, and it also gives you a sense of your resistances. Just being in that position and realizing you have these resistances, you can still go down the path of least resistance. I mean, I know I have, and that can work wonders. But I think doing so while also being conscious of the additional, how would I say it, modalities of cognitive experience can essentially future-proof the self. And it can also expand one's horizons, because yeah, okay, you're starting in this path of least resistance, but if you keep developing yourself, you're going to find more paths open up, and they're not going to be that resistant anymore. So it's actually expanding your locus of control. Is expanding that path of least resistance, and it gives you paths, plural, of least resistance. So that's probably my favorite benefit.
So I get a lot of people that come to me and they wonder, okay, Eric, what personality type do I have, or who am I? And I'm not sure what it is I want to do or what my purpose is. So what I end up offering is coaching sessions, and I offer coaching. I don't offer therapy. I'm not a qualified counselor or a psychologist. What I do is I focus on the smaller issues, the more day-to-day basic issues that people are having in their lives. I focus on just the small scale. What goals do you have? What is it you care about? What is it you want to achieve? And I try to listen to people. I give people space to share about themselves. Most of the time, they end up doing most of the talking, and I just try to listen and see, okay, what is it they, when do they seem the most passionate? When do they seem to spark the most? Like I had the other day, I was coaching a client, and he was talking about how he had made it as an artist, and he was creating and he was doing something, but he wasn't sure if that was really something fulfilling. He didn't even know if that was his passion. So I asked him, okay, but do you feel like you're making an impact with what you're doing? And what do you feel is your impact? And he started talking about how he is trying to help his community see itself differently, and how he is trying to change people's perceptions of where they are, and to get people to appreciate and be more grateful of what they have. And suddenly when I saw him talk about that, I saw how his eyes lit up, and I told him, like, I noticed that you really seem to care about this. It seems like you really do care about your art. And he's like, yeah, actually, maybe I do. Sometimes it's just, I do it, but I don't even think about why I'm doing it. I just, I guess, forgot how important and how meaningful this is. So that's like really the goal of what I do, just making people realize, the impact that they have, and beauty that they possess, and the amazing talents that they have. Having that mindfulness of realizing, okay, what is it I am doing, and what is it I'm creating? What is it I feel? How is it I feel about what I create? I think that's everyone needs to be aware of that. Be careful not to fall into the autopilot, or to just fall into like every day constantly pushing yourself or trying to improve yourself, and forgetting about the value that you're creating right now. If you take the INFP personality type, what I'm seeing, the thematics that I'm seeing is they are often artistically inclined, or they are interested in creating, or they are interested in ethics or in self-exploration. And those are the things that they care about the most. So when you compare them to, say, an ESTJ or an extroverted thinking type, what you see is like the script is different. When ESTJs talk about what they want to do, it's a lot more about driving value to society. It's about achievement. It's about being the best, or the most talented, or the most powerful person in what you do. Like it's about competition. And when I look at you put these two in the same environment, what I'm seeing is, okay, if you put an INFP in a highly competitive environment where they have to sell themselves, market themselves, and constantly compare themselves to other people, they start doing worse. They start struggling. They start getting stressed out. They start getting overwhelmed. But when you put an ESTJ or an extroverted thinking type in such an environment, a lot of time they thrive in it. They find it more fun. They find it invigorating. They get passion from it. So that's just one quick example of how two types can respond completely differently to the same situation. Introverted feeling types in general, really. And something I see is they just don't like to market themselves. Like a lot of them, they have something they care about. They like doing music or creating music. but then they're always like, yeah, I should probably put this out there, and I should probably market this, and I should probably be better at getting this to reach people. But they are like this, there's this inclination of like, but I don't like the idea of selling my work, and I don't know if it feels right to make it so commercial, and I don't like the idea of selling it. And that's where you see extroverted thinking types, they enjoy that. They enjoy being enterprising and turning things into a business or turning things into a project. Something that I noticed with extroverted feeling types is that in general, they tend to be very, very agreeable people, and they seek to connect with people with everything they do, and they value the community, and they feel the best when they are helping and supporting other people with what they do. When I look at an INTP or an introverted thinking type, for example, what I see is a focus more on your personal skills and talents. INTPs and ISTPs want most of all to become talented and to be skilled at what they do, and they value competency very highly. Honestly, like for them, the pursuit of being a personal competency and being the smartest person in the room, or being the most intelligent, or being the best at something, and having some kind of skill that's unique, that sets you apart from other people, that's what they get energy from. Where an ENFJ or an ESFJ, they want to share their skills with the community. They want everyone to have the powers that they possess, and they are very focused on like getting everyone to come in line with them. They're far more inclined to be teachers and to help everyone get equipped with the skills, and less focused on their own personal skills. A lot of time, these teachers, they're not very focused on being good at something or being the best at something. It's like you have that saying, those that can do and those that can't teach. And a lot of times that's what tends to happen. The ENFJ or the ESFJ, they don't necessarily value the pursuit of the skill itself, or the constant trying to improve yourself or fix yourself. And a lot of time they struggle with criticism, they struggle with reflecting on their flaws or their weaknesses, or thinking about how they can improve things. So they go more into that of, okay, how can I be a part of the community? How can I bring value to the community and be a supportive figure and be a part of the community without necessarily being the most talented, or without being, even if I'm not the most skilled or the most intelligent person in the room. For the extroverted intuitive type, the ENFP or ENTP, it's the pursuit of opportunity. It's new ideas, it's learning about new things, it's doing research, it's being a detective, it's figuring things out, it's connecting patterns, it's seeing how things fit together. Those are the things that really get an ENFP or ENTP fired up. When you look at an ISTJ or an ISFJ, it's tradition. It's having a comfortable, secure life. It's about having some things that you can, to have self-discipline, to be able to have something you can focus on and master, and something that you can work hard at and improve at, and have really like devote yourself to, having a responsibility or a role or a duty that you can accomplish. These types, they tend to value character a lot. So living up to and honoring like something that you think is important, or fulfilling something that you find to be an important duty. And a lot of times ENFPs and ENTPs, they really don't respond well to duty. It makes them feel trapped. It makes them feel like they're being controlled. And similarly, an ISTJ or an ISFJ, they don't respond well to change, because that can mean a loss of security, a loss of status, or a loss of a role or responsibility. What if things change and your ways of doing things, or your role at work becomes compromised, or you can't do what it is that you feel has been so important? When I'm looking at INTJs and INFJs, we tend to be extremely focused people. We love the thought of just losing ourselves in our work and just losing ourselves in the idea of thinking about or working on an idea and perfecting it and visualizing it and coming up with it and that whole process. But we struggle with the execution of it, putting it out there and getting other people to hear it and to see the message and to be outgoing, because it's overwhelming for us when we do put it out there. It's what should you say, it's even scary. A lot of these types, they can be sensitive to being in the spotlight and to going out into the real world and living the real life. A lot of time what they end up doing is they end up staying in a fantasy world, or you could say, or they end up being in this space where they're focused on that creative process, but they don't put themselves out there. When you look at an ESFP or an ESTP, like that's their natural state. That's wherever they go, they tend to enjoy being on the stage. They tend to enjoy putting themselves out there. They tend to enjoy being together with others. They tend to enjoy when things happen. They like for things to keep happening, to keep having things going on around them. So to have like a busy environment around you, to have things constantly to do in your list. INFJs and INTJs, they like having nothing to do, just being able to just relax, to just be able to sit down and to just be able to let your mind focus and to go and do something that is often like just away from society and away from everything that's happening.